The first time Keiko Tanaka walked into the Westfield Hotel, nobody turned to look. That was exactly how she wanted it. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent, but nothing about it screamed money. Her dark hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her face clean of makeup except for a touch of lip balm. The only hint of her wealth was a small watch on her wrist, not flashy but worth more than a small house. Keiko liked being invisible. She had spent her whole life perfecting the art of not being seen, even as her bank account grew to numbers that made her one of the richest women in Asia. The staff at the front desk smiled politely as she checked in. "Welcome to the Westfield, Ms. Tanaka. We hope you enjoy your stay." Their eyes showed no recognition. Good. The news hadn't spread yet. 3 days ago, Keiko had bought this entire hotel. All 64 rooms, the restaurant, the small but elegant bar, the fitness center that still had equipment from the 1990s. She now owned every brick of the historic building, but she had given strict instructions to her lawyers. Tell no one who the new owner was. Not yet. She took the old elevator up to the 5th floor. Her room was nice, but not the best in the hotel. She had specifically asked for something toward the middle range. The presidential suite would draw attention. A standard room might make. The staff wonder why someone in designer clothes was staying there. The middle option let her blend in. Keiko set her small suitcase on the bed and walked to the window. From here, she could see a slice of Central Park, green and alive with people enjoying the warm spring day. She watched them for a while, couples holding hands, friends laughing together, families spreading blankets for picnics. So many connections. So much easy togetherness. She turned away from the window and unpacked her few belongings. Everything in its place, everything neat, everything controlled. At exactly 7 o'clock, Keiko went down to the hotel restaurant. The hostess led her to a small table in the corner, just as she had requested when making her reservation. "Is this suitable, Ms. Tanaka?" "Yes. Thank you." Keiko kept her words few and her tone polite but distant. She had learned long ago that being polite but cool kept people at a comfortable distance. The restaurant wasn't busy yet. A few early diners sat scattered around the room. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers. The lights were low but not too dim, just enough to create a feeling of privacy around each table. Keiko ordered green tea and the salmon. She always ordered the same things in restaurants. It was easier. No decisions to make, no conversations about specials or recommendations. The waiter seemed slightly taken aback by how quickly she made up her mind, but he nodded and left her alone. While waiting for her food, Keiko pulled out her phone and checked her emails. 97 new messages since she had last looked 3 hours ago. Most were from her executive team at Tanaka Tech, her company that had revolutionized voice recognition software. Some were from charities asking for donations. A few were personal, though those were rare these days. One email caught her eye. It was from her mother in Tokyo. "Keiko, I saw in the business news that you're in New York again. Your father and I hope you will reconsider our discussion from New Year's. You are 45 now. The company is stable. It's time to think about the future of our family name. Your cousin Hideo knows several respectable men who would be honored to meet you. Please call when you have time." Keiko deleted the email without replying. The same conversation for the last 20 years. Marriage, family, continuing the Tanaka line. Her mother never seemed to understand that Keiko had built something bigger than a family name. She had built an empire. And she had done it alone. The salmon arrived. It was perfectly cooked, but Keiko barely tasted it. She ate methodically, taking small bites, chewing exactly 20 times before swallowing. Another habit formed over years of business dinners where she needed to focus on the conversation, not the food. As she ate, she observed the restaurant filling up. A group of businessmen loud with success and whiskey. An older couple who barely spoke but seemed comfortable in their silence. A young family with a child who kept dropping his fork. The noise level rose. Keiko felt her shoulders tightening, her jaw clenching. Too many sounds all mixing together. Too many conversations overlapping. The clink of glasses and silverware. The burst of laughter from the businessmen, the hum of the air conditioning, it all swirled around her, pressing in, making it hard to focus. She put down her fork, closed her eyes for 2 seconds, and took a deep breath. When she opened them again, she had regained control. This was why she needed to buy this hotel. This was why she needed a place of her own in New York, a place she could control, a place she could shape to her needs. After dinner, Keiko left a large tip, 40% of the bill. She always tipped well, not to show off her wealth, but because she knew service workers depended on tips. She understood what it meant to work hard. She had worked harder than anyone to get where she was. Back in her room, Keiko changed into silk pajamas and sat cross-legged on the bed with her laptop. For the next 3 hours, she reviewed plans for the hotel renovation. The current management didn't know it yet, but soon the Westfield would close for 6 months of extensive updates. Not the kind of updates most luxury hotels underwent. No gold fixtures or marble lobbies. Instead, Keiko had different plans. Special lighting that wouldn't trigger migraines, soundproofing that went beyond industry standards, rooms with different sensory options, features that most hotel guests wouldn't notice but that would make all the difference to people like her. At midnight, Keiko closed her laptop and took out the small photo she kept in her wallet. A young girl with serious eyes stood beside a cherry tree in full bloom. Her school uniform was perfectly pressed, her hair neatly braided. She wasn't smiling. She never smiled in photos. It felt too forced, too fake. The other children had called her Robot Girl because of it. Keiko touched the photo gently, then put it away. She turned off the light and lay down, arranging the blankets just so. Tomorrow would be day 2 of her secret visit. Another day of watching and planning. Another day of being the billionaire nobody knew was there. As she drifted off to sleep, a text message lit up her phone screen. Her assistant in Tokyo. The board approved the New York project unanimously. Green light to proceed. A tiny smile touched Keiko's lips in the darkness. Soon, this place would become something no one expected. Soon, she would create the one thing her billions had never been able to buy her. A place where she finally felt she belonged. Destiny's feet hurt. 6 hours into her shift at the Westfield Hotel restaurant, and she still had 2 more to go. The black shoes that were required as part of her uniform looked nice, but felt like torture devices by the end of the night. Still, she smiled as she refilled water glasses at table 7. Tips had been good tonight, and every dollar brought her closer to finishing her degree. "Williams, you've got table 12, Ray, the floor manager, said as he passed by with a stack of menus. "The Japanese lady. She's been here every night this week." Destiny glanced toward the corner table. A woman sat alone, back straight, eyes focused on nothing in particular. Something about her seemed different from the usual hotel guests. Not just her expensive clothes or perfect posture, but a kind of stillness. "What's her deal?" Destiny asked Lisa, another waitress who was punching an order into the computer system. "Rich lady. Barely talks. Orders the same thing every night. Green tea and salmon. Tips like crazy, though." Lisa shrugged. "Some of the guys call her the Ice Queen because she never smiles. Never complains either, so that's something." Destiny grabbed her notepad and headed to table 12. As she approached, she noticed how the woman's eyes flickered briefly to her name tag before settling somewhere near Destiny's left shoulder, not quite making eye contact. "Good evening, Ms. Tanaka. My name is Destiny. I'll be taking care of you tonight." She offered her warmest smile. "Would you like to hear about our specials?" "No, thank you. Green tea and the salmon, please." The woman's voice was soft but clear, her accent giving a musical quality to her English. "Of course, coming right up." As Destiny turned to leave, she noticed the woman's hands. Despite her calm expression, her fingers tapped a rhythmic pattern on the white tablecloth. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It reminded Destiny of her brother Alex when he was trying to stay calm in overwhelming situations. While waiting for the kitchen to prepare the salmon, Destiny watched Ms. Tanaka from across the room. The restaurant was busy tonight, loud, with a hot weekend energy. A large group was celebrating a birthday, complete with singing and clapping. Each time the noise level peaked, Ms. Tanaka's shoulders tensed slightly, though her face remained impassive. When the food was ready, Destiny brought it to the table. "Here's your salmon, Ms. Tanaka. Can I get you anything else?" "No, this is fine." Again, those eyes that wouldn't quite meet hers. "Enjoy your meal." Destiny stepped away but kept an eye on table 12 throughout the evening. She noticed things others might miss. How Ms. Tanaka ate methodically, cutting her food into perfectly equal pieces. How she flinched slightly when the busboy dropped a glass in the kitchen. How she kept checking her watch, not impatiently, but as if confirming that time was still moving as expected. Near the end of her meal, a loud group of businessmen were seated at the table next to Ms. Tanaka. Their booming voices and sudden bursts of laughter filled that corner of the restaurant. Ms. Tanaka's hand tightened around her fork. Her breathing seemed to quicken. The tapping pattern on the tablecloth became faster. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Without thinking twice, Destiny walked over to the hostess stand and spoke quietly to Becky, who was arranging menus. 2 minutes later, Becky approached Ms. Tanaka's table. "Excuse me, Ms. Tanaka. We've had a small issue with the ventilation system in this section. Would you mind if we moved you to a quieter table by the window? We're so sorry for the inconvenience." Relief flickered across Ms. Tanaka's face, so brief that most would have missed it. "That would be acceptable, thank you." After Ms. Tanaka was settled at her new table, far from the noisy group, she looked up as Destiny brought her a fresh cup of tea. "There was nothing wrong with the ventilation, was there?" Her voice was still quiet, but there was something new in it. Curiosity, perhaps. Destiny hesitated, then decided on honesty. "No, ma'am, you seemed uncomfortable with the noise. My brother is sensitive to sounds, too." "I thought you might enjoy your dinner more in a quieter spot." For a moment, Ms. Tanaka said nothing. Then she gave a small nod, almost to herself. "That was considerate. Thank you." "You're welcome." Destiny smiled. "Would you like some dessert? Tonight? Our green tea ice cream is excellent." "No. Just the check, please." When Destiny brought the bill, Ms. Tanaka paid with a black card that looked heavier than regular credit cards. She left her usual generous tip, but this time there was a note written on the receipt. "Thank you for your perception." Over the next 2 weeks, Ms. Tanaka came to the restaurant every evening. Destiny was always assigned to her table. At Ms. Tanaka's request, Ray told her with raised eyebrows. Their interactions remained brief and professional, but something had shifted. Ms. Tanaka began to ask for Destiny's recommendations. She tried the green tea ice cream. Once, she even asked about Destiny's studies when she noticed her tucking a psychology textbook under the server station. "Clinical psychology," Destiny explained. "I'm focusing on neurodevelopmental conditions. My brother has autism, and helping him navigate the world made me want to help others." Ms. Tanaka nodded, her eyes focused on her teacup. A worthy goal. One rainy Tuesday night, the restaurant was nearly empty. Ms. Tanaka sat at her usual table by the window, watching raindrops race down the glass. After serving her meal, Destiny noticed she had left her phone on the table. Unusual for someone so precise in her habits, the screen lit up with a message. Destiny wasn't trying to read it, but the Japanese characters filled the screen. Impossible to miss. Ms. Tanaka stared at the message, her face completely blank, but her hands were shaking. Destiny approached slowly. "Is everything all right, Ms. Tanaka?" For the first time, those dark eyes met hers directly. They were filled with something Destiny recognized immediately, the look of someone drowning in emotions they couldn't express. "My father has died." The words came out flat, as if Ms. Tanaka was reporting the weather. "I'm so sorry." Destiny's heart ached at the disconnect between the woman's words and her expressionless face. "Would you like some privacy? I can close this section of the restaurant." "No." Ms. Tanaka looked down at her hands, which were still trembling. "I should feel something appropriate. I should cry or show grief. That is what normal people do when their father dies." The word normal hung in the air between them. Destiny thought, of Alex, who had cried for 3 days when their grandmother died, but couldn't explain his feelings when asked. He just kept saying, "I'm sad, but my face won't show it, right?" "There's no right way to grieve," Destiny said gently. "Some people can't show their feelings the way others expect. That doesn't mean they don't feel deeply." Ms. Tanaka looked up, sharply. "You speak as if you understand. I don't pretend to know exactly how you feel, but I know that emotions can work differently for different people." Destiny hesitated, then added, "My brother feels things intensely, but people think he doesn't care because his face doesn't always match what's inside." For a long moment, Ms. Tanaka was silent. Then she said, so quietly Destiny almost missed it, "I have to go to Tokyo tomorrow. For the funeral. I have not been home in 3 years. That must be difficult. My mother will ask why I am not crying. My relatives will whisper about the cold daughter who built machines instead of a family." Ms. Tanaka's voice remained steady, but her fingers resumed their tapping pattern on the table. They never understood. Something in those 3 words, "they never understood," made Destiny take a chance. She sat down in the chair across from Ms. Tanaka. It wasn't proper waitress etiquette, but this moment felt beyond job titles. "Ms. Tanaka, I don't know you well, but I see you. I see how you notice everything, how sounds and lights affect you, how you find comfort in routine. There's nothing wrong with experiencing the world the way you do." Ms. Tanaka stared at her, an unreadable expression crossing her face. For a terrible moment, Destiny thought she had overstepped, had possibly just lost her job by speaking so directly to a guest. But then Ms. Tanaka did something unexpected. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, worn photograph. She placed it on the table between them. "This is me. Age 10. The photo showed a solemn-faced girl in a school uniform, standing stiffly under cherry blossoms. "The day before this picture was taken, my teacher told my parents I was problematic. Unresponsive, living in my own world." Destiny looked at the little girl in the photo, recognizing in her serious eyes the same intelligence and awareness she saw in Ms. Tanaka now. "You weren't unresponsive," Destiny said softly. "You were just responding to a world that was too loud, too bright, too much, in your own way." Ms. Tanaka's breath caught. For the first time since Destiny had known her, her carefully composed face showed raw emotion, surprise, recognition, and something that might have been relief. "How do you know these things?" she whispered. "Because I see them every day in my brother. And because I've learned that understanding someone doesn't always require words." The rain continued to fall outside the window, creating a gentle backdrop to the quiet moment between them. A waitress and a billionaire, connected by an understanding that needed no explanation. The dining room of the Westfield Hotel bustled, with its usual evening crowd. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers while waiters moved between tables with practiced grace. In the far corner, Keiko sat at her usual table, back straight, eyes focused on the menu she already knew by heart. 9 days had passed since her father's funeral in Tokyo. 9 days since she had stood dry-eyed beside her mother while relatives whispered behind cupped hands about the daughter who showed no proper grief. 9 days of burying herself in work, of making decisions about the hotel renovation, of trying not to think about the conversation with the waitress who had somehow seen through her carefully constructed walls. The sound of breaking glass cut through the restaurant's gentle hum. A child at a nearby table had knocked over a water glass, sending shards across the polished floor. The noise hit Keiko like a physical blow. Her hands flew to her ears before she could stop herself. Her breathing quickened, and her vision narrowed. To a tunnel. Too much. Too loud. Too sudden. Then a warm hand covered hers and a soft voice cut through the chaos in her mind. "It's okay. You're safe. Just focus on my voice." Destiny. The waitress. Somehow she was sitting across from Keiko, her eyes filled with understanding rather than judgment. Keiko forced herself to breathe. In for 4 counts, hold for 7, out for 8. The pattern her childhood therapist had taught her decades ago. The restaurant manager hurried over, apologizing profusely to Keiko, assuming the wealthy guest would be angry about the disturbance. But Keiko barely heard him. She was focused entirely on regaining control, on not showing weakness in this public place. Ms. Tanaka isn't feeling well, Destiny explained smoothly. Perhaps we could move her to the private dining room until she feels better. Minutes later, Keiko found herself in a quiet room separated from the main restaurant. The lights were dimmer here, the sounds muffled. Destiny placed a cup of green tea on the table and sat down across from her. Better? She asked, simply. Keiko nodded, her breathing steadier now. The sharp edges of panic had receded, leaving behind a familiar shame. She had lost control in public, something she hadn't done since she was a teenager. I apologize for my reaction, Keiko said stiffly. It was unprofessional. Destiny tilted her head slightly. Unprofessional? You're not at work, Miss Tanaka. You're having dinner. I am always working, Keiko replied, and I am always managing myself. That sounds exhausting. The simple observation caught Keiko off guard. No one had ever acknowledged the constant effort it took to appear normal in a world that overwhelmed her senses. To hide the parts of herself that others found strange or uncomfortable. To be the successful businesswoman everyone expected her to be. How did you know? Keiko asked, looking directly at Destiny for perhaps the first time. About me. How to help when the glass broke. Destiny's smile was warm but not pitying. My brother is on the spectrum too. He's 25 now, but I've been helping him navigate sensory overload since we were kids. The way you reacted, hands to ears, the controlled breathing afterward, it was familiar. Keiko felt something inside her shift, like a door long locked suddenly opening. On the spectrum, she repeated quietly. Is that what you think I am? I'm still a student, not a doctor, Destiny said carefully. I would never presume to diagnose anyone, but yes, I recognized certain patterns, the way you always sit at the same table, how you order the same meal, your attention to detail, your discomfort with loud noises and bright lights. She paused. And the way you see everything but people think you see nothing, because your face doesn't always show what you're feeling. Keiko stared at her tea, watching the steam rise in delicate curls. In Japan, when I was young, they did not use such terms. They said I was difficult, strange, too focused on my own interests. Her voice remained steady, but her fingers resumed their familiar tapping pattern on the table. My father hired experts to fix me. Fix you? Destiny's voice held a note of sadness. They taught me how to act normal, how to look people in the eye even when it felt like being stabbed, how to make small talk even when the words felt like stones in my mouth. Keiko gave a small, humorless smile. I became very good at pretending, so good that sometimes I forget I am pretending at all, until something happens, like the glass breaking. Yes. Keiko looked up at Destiny. In business, my differences became strengths. My focus, my attention to patterns, my ability to see solutions others missed. I built Tanaka Tech because I understood how machines work better than I understood how people work. For a moment they sat in companionable silence. The quiet felt comfortable rather than awkward. Keiko found herself relaxing slightly, the constant tension in her shoulders easing. My brother says it's like being an alien who was given a human instruction manual, but half the pages are missing, Destiny said eventually. He knows the basic steps of how to be in the world, but there are all these unwritten rules that everyone else seems to know instinctively. A surprised laugh escaped Keiko, a short rusty sound as if her laugh had been locked away for so long it had forgotten how to emerge properly. Yes, exactly like that. Destiny smiled, pleased to have drawn that rare laugh from the serious woman. Alex, my brother, he's brilliant with computers. He can code like you wouldn't believe. But he needs his world to make sense. Predictable. Structured. Is he happy? Keiko asked, the question coming from somewhere deep inside her. Most of the time, yes, he has a good job. Remote work, thankfully. He has his routines. He has people who understand him and don't try to make him be something he's not. Destiny leaned forward slightly. The biggest change came when he stopped trying to be normal and started arranging his life to work with who he really is. Those words hung in the air between them. Keiko turned them over in her mind, examining them from all angles like a complex algorithm. "I have spent 45 years trying to be normal," she said finally. "I am very tired. Maybe it's time to try something different." Keiko looked around the private dining room, its muted colors and quiet atmosphere. Then she made a decision. "I have something to tell you, Destiny. Something no one else in this hotel knows yet." She took a deep breath. "I am the new owner of the Westfield." Destiny's eyes widened. "You bought the hotel? The whole hotel?" "Yes. 3 weeks ago." Keiko's hands stilled their tapping as she focused on explaining. "I travel frequently for business. Hotels are difficult for me. Too bright, too loud, too unpredictable. I thought, what if I created a place designed for people like me? A luxury hotel, yes, but one that understands different needs." Understanding dawned on Destiny's face. "A hotel for neurodivergent people. Not exclusively, but yes, a place where the lighting doesn't cause migraines, where soundproofing exceeds normal standards, where guests can choose rooms based on sensory preferences, not just bed size or view." For the first time, Keiko's voice held real animation. "I have been staying here, observing how the hotel functions before beginning renovations." "That's incredible," Destiny said. "There's nothing like that anywhere as far as I know. The plans are already drawn. Construction begins next month." Keiko hesitated, then added quietly, "The staff will all be retained and paid during the closure, of course, but I would like to offer you a different position." "Me?" Destiny looked surprised. "You understand what I am trying to create? You see people, truly see them in a way few do." Keiko's gaze was direct now, her usual discomfort with eye contact forgotten in her focus. "I need someone to help train the staff, to help create the right environment. Someone who understands both the hospitality industry and the needs of people, who experience the world differently." Destiny sat back in her chair, clearly processing this unexpected offer. "I'm still in school. My degree program. Part-time," Keiko said quickly. "Flexible hours and significantly better compensation than waiting tables." She added, with the hint of a smile, "And perhaps a scholarship for your studies. My foundation supports education in fields related to neurodiversity." A mix of emotions crossed Destiny's expressive face: surprise, excitement, caution. "This is a lot to take in. You do not need to decide now." Keiko reached for her purse and withdrew a business card. Not the standard Tanaka Tech card she usually carried, but a simple white card with just her name and private number. "Think about it. Call me when you have decided." As she slid the card across the table, their fingers briefly touched. Such a small thing, that momentary contact. But Keiko felt it like a spark of connection. For someone who had spent a lifetime avoiding touch, the fact that she didn't flinch away felt significant. "Thank you for today," Keiko said formally, rising from her chair, "for your help with the incident, and for seeing me as I am, not as I pretend to be." Destiny stood too, her smile genuine. "Thank you for trusting me enough to share your plans and your truth." As Keiko walked back through the restaurant toward the elevators, she felt lighter somehow. The noise and light still pressed in on her senses, but less sharply than before. For the first time in longer than she could remember, she had spoken to someone without calculating every word, without maintaining the exhausting mask of normalcy. In her room, Keiko changed into her silk pajamas and sat on the edge of the bed. Her father's funeral had reminded her of all she had left behind in Japan. The family traditions, the expectations, the constant pressure to be someone she was not. She had built her company, her fortune, her life, by channeling her differences into work, by pushing herself beyond what most would consider possible. But what had it all been for? What was the point of billions in the bank if she still felt like an alien among humans? Keiko picked up her phone and called her assistant in Tokyo, despite the time difference. "Haru, I need you to make some changes to the Westfield plans. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The project is no longer just a hotel. I want to create a foundation as well. For research and support services. For people like me. As she spoke, outlining her new vision, Keiko felt something unfamiliar, building inside her. It took her a moment to recognize it. Hope. Not just for a hotel where she could feel comfortable, but for a world that might finally begin to understand people like her. People who experienced life differently, but no less fully. And it had begun with a waitress who had simply said, "I see you." 3 months into the Westfield hotel renovation, Keiko stood in what would soon be the new lobby. Workers moved around her, carrying materials, checking plans, transforming the space according to her vision. She wore a hard hat over her perfectly styled hair and sensible boots instead of her usual heels. Even in construction clothes, there was something regal about her posture. "The lighting system goes in next week," Destiny said, walking up beside her with a tablet in hand. "The tech guys say they've never installed anything like it before." "It is the first of its kind," Keiko replied, "designed to adjust automatically." Throughout the day. No harsh fluorescence, no flickering, no humming that most people can't hear but drives some of us to distraction. Destiny smiled. In the months since their first real conversation, Keiko had slowly begun to say us instead of hiding behind careful words. Small steps toward embracing who she truly was, rather than who the world had tried to make her be. "The acoustic engineers are coming tomorrow to test the soundproofing in the model room," Destiny continued, scrolling through her notes, "and the fabric samples for the hypoallergenic bedding finally arrived from Switzerland." Keiko nodded, her eyes scanning the space, seeing not what was there now but what would be. "And your brother? He will come next week to test the room?" "Yes. Alex is actually excited about it, which is saying something. He doesn't get excited about much outside his coding projects." A small smile touched Keiko's lips. "I look forward to meeting him." They walked together through the construction zone, checking progress, discussing details. What had begun as a business relationship had evolved into something neither woman had expected, a friendship that bridged vastly different worlds. Destiny had accepted Keiko's job offer, working part-time while continuing her studies. She had become the liaison between Keiko's vision and the practical realities of hotel operations. Her natural warmth and people skills complemented Keiko's brilliant but sometimes too direct approach. Where Keiko saw systems and patterns, Destiny saw people and possibilities. "The staff training starts next month," Destiny said, as they entered what would become the restaurant. "I've been working on the materials, teaching people to recognize and accommodate different needs without making guests feel singled out or different. It's a delicate balance." "You understand that balance better than anyone," Keiko said. It wasn't flattery. Keiko didn't do flattery. It was a simple acknowledgement of truth. They stopped by a large window overlooking Central Park. The spring trees had given way to full summer green. People moved along the paths like colorful ants from this distance. "I received another email from my mother this morning," Keiko said suddenly. Destiny glanced at her, hearing the tension in those few words. Keiko rarely spoke of her family, but when she did, it usually involved her mother's continuing pressure about marriage and children. "The usual topics?" Destiny asked gently. "Yes. And no." Keiko kept her eyes on the park. "She has finally realized I will not change my mind about marriage. Instead, she has shifted to concerns about the company. Who will lead Tanaka Tech when I am gone? Who will care for the family legacy?" She sighed, a small sound almost lost in the construction noise. "I have built something valuable, but all she sees is what is missing." Destiny was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "Have you told her about this project, about why it matters to you?" "No." Keiko's answer was quick and definite. "In my family, we do not discuss differences, especially not mine. My father took that approach to his grave, and my mother continues. Maybe it's time to change that tradition." Keiko turned to look at Destiny, her expression unreadable. You think I should tell her about my autism, after 45 years of pretending to be normal? The word still sounded strange coming from Keiko's mouth. She had only recently begun to use it after meeting with a specialist Destiny had recommended. The official diagnosis had been both a shock and a relief, putting a name to the differences she had managed alone for decades. I think, Destiny said slowly, that hiding who you are has cost you a lot. And maybe it's costing your mother something, too, the chance to truly know her daughter. Keiko looked away back to the park and its distant figures. There is a Japanese concept called hone and tatamai. Hone is your true feelings, your real self. Tatamai is the face you show the world what is socially acceptable. In my culture, tatamai is often more important than hone. That sounds exhausting. It is our way. But Keiko's voice held a note of uncertainty now. Though perhaps it does not have to be my way anymore. Before Destiny could respond, Keiko's phone chimed with a message. She checked it, her face instantly shifting to what Destiny had come to think of as her business mask, the perfectly composed expression that revealed nothing of her inner thoughts. I must go. A video conference with Tokyo. Keiko straightened her already perfect posture. Will you be at the design meeting tomorrow? Wouldn't miss it. Destiny smiled. Tell your Tokyo team I said hello. Keiko gave a small nod and walked away, her movements precise and controlled. Watching her go, Destiny marveled at the contradiction that was Keiko Tanaka, a woman who could command a boardroom with unwavering confidence, yet struggle with a casual dinner conversation. A billionaire who noticed when the cleaning staff seemed tired and quietly arranged for better break facilities. A visionary who was transforming a historic hotel into something revolutionary, yet couldn't tell her own mother about the project's personal significance. Later that evening, Destiny sat in her small apartment surrounded by psychology textbooks and hotel training materials. Her phone buzzed with a text from Keiko, unusual, as Keiko preferred email for most communications. Are you available to meet? Not at the hotel, somewhere quieter. Surprised, Destiny suggested a small tea shop near her apartment. It was late, nearly 9 p.m., but the shop stayed open until midnight. When she arrived, Keiko was already there, sitting at a corner table far from the other customers. She had changed from her construction clothes into a simple black dress, but something about her seemed different, less composed, more human. Thank you for coming, Keiko said as Destiny sat down across from her. I know it is late. Everything okay? Destiny asked, concerned by the unusual invitation. Keiko's fingers did their familiar tapping pattern on the table. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I spoke with my mother after our conversation today. Really spoke with her for perhaps the first time in my adult life. Destiny's eyes widened. What happened? I told her about the hotel project, about why I am creating it. Keiko's voice remained steady, but her fingers betrayed her emotion. I told her about my diagnosis, about being autistic. That must have been difficult, Destiny said softly. How did she respond? For a moment, Keiko was silent, her eyes focused on her teacup. She cried. Oh. Destiny wasn't sure what to say. Was she upset? Not in the way I expected. Keiko looked up, and Destiny was startled to see moisture in those usually composed eyes. She said she had always known I was different. That when I was a child, before the therapist and the training to be normal, I was happier, more myself. She said my father insisted on the treatments, on making me fit into the world rather than letting me be who I was. And she went along with it, Destiny said, understanding dawning. Yes, she thought it was for the best, that it would make my life easier. Keiko's voice caught slightly. She told me she has regretted it every day since. That she watched me build walls around myself, become more and more isolated even as I became more successful. But she didn't know how to reach me anymore. A single tear slipped down Keiko's cheek. She touched it with her fingertips, looking almost surprised to Find it there. I have not cried since I was 12 years old, she said wonderingly. They taught me not to show such emotions. Destiny reached across the table and gently took Keiko's hand. Sometimes tears are necessary. They're part of being human. My mother is coming to New York, Keiko said after a moment. She wants to see the hotel, to understand this part of my life. A small, uncertain smile touched her lips. She asked if she could meet you. Me? Destiny was surprised. I told her about you, about how you saw me when no one else did. Keiko's fingers curled around Destiny's, returning the gentle pressure. She said you must be a remarkable person. I just paid attention, Destiny said, feeling oddly shy. Anyone could have seen what I saw. But they didn't. For 45 years, no one did. Keiko's gaze was direct now, no hint of her usual discomfort with eye contact. You changed everything, Destiny. With a few simple words, you gave me permission to be myself. The tea shop was quiet around them, other customers engaged in their own conversations, unaware of the profound moment taking place in the corner. Two women from different worlds, connected by understanding and now perhaps by something like friendship. When I was growing up, Destiny said, my grandmother used to tell me that God gives us the eyes we need to see the world in our own special way. Some people see colors more vividly. Some people notice patterns others miss. Some people, like my brother, see details that most of us overlook. She smiled. I think we're all just seeing different parts of the same beautiful, complicated world. A wise woman, your grandmother. She was. Destiny hesitated, then added, she also used to say that the greatest gift we can give another person is to see them as they truly are and love them anyway. And do you? Keiko asked, her voice barely above a whisper. See me as I truly am? I'm beginning to, Destiny answered honestly. You're complex, Ms. Tanaka, brilliant and vulnerable, tough and tender, practical and visionary. She smiled, just like the rest of us humans. For the first time since they had known each other, Keiko laughed. A real laugh, not the small, controlled sound she sometimes allowed herself. It transformed her face, erasing years of careful composure, revealing the woman beneath the billionaire's mask. Just Keiko, she said. Please. After all this, I think you can call me by my first name. Keiko, then. Destiny smiled. So, when does your mother arrive? Next week. The same day as your brother will be testing the model room. Keiko looked momentarily alarmed. Perhaps that is too much at once. Or perhaps it's perfect timing, Destiny suggested. Two people who matter to us, seeing this project that brings together our different worlds. As they finished their tea, making plans for the upcoming visits, Destiny noticed something different about Keiko. She still sat with perfect posture, still spoke with precision, still noticed every detail of their surroundings. But the constant tension that had always hummed beneath her surface seemed to have eased. As if after decades of holding herself together with sheer willpower, she was finally allowing herself to simply be. Outside the tea shop, they paused before going their separate ways, Keiko to her temporary apartment near the hotel construction site, Destiny to her modest place a few blocks away. Thank you, Keiko said simply. For the tea. For listening. For everything. That's what friends do, Destiny replied. The word hung between them. Friends. Such a simple concept, yet one that Keiko had rarely experienced in its true form. People had always wanted something from her. Her money, her influence, her business connections. No one had simply wanted to know her, to understand her world, until a waitress had seen past her walls and said the words that changed everything. I see you. The day of the grand reopening of the Westfield Hotel dawned clear and bright. After 6 months of renovation, the historic building stood renewed, its classic exterior unchanged while its interior had been completely transformed. In her suite on the top floor, Keiko stood before the mirror, adjusting the collar of her silk blouse. Her hands moved with their usual precision, but there was a new energy in her movements, a barely contained excitement that would have been unthinkable a year ago. A knock at the door announced Destiny's arrival. She entered carrying a tablet and wearing a tailored suit that was a far cry from her former waitress uniform. "The press is already gathering downstairs," Destiny said, "and the staff is ready for final inspection." Keiko nodded, taking a deep breath. "And the sensory room? Set up exactly as planned." Alex tested it yesterday and gave his seal of approval. Destiny smiled. He said, and I quote, "It's the first hotel room that doesn't make my brain feel like it's being squeezed." A small smile touched Keiko's lips. High praise indeed. In the 6 months since construction had begun, Destiny's brother Alex had become an unexpected consultant on the project. His blunt assessments and attention to detail had proven invaluable, catching issues the designers had overlooked. And watching him work with Keiko, two brilliant minds who processed the world in similar ways, had been a revelation for Destiny. "Your mother called from her room," Destiny continued. "She wanted to know if you need anything before the ceremony." "She worries too much now," Keiko said, but her tone was fond rather than irritated. Harumi Tanaka had arrived from Tokyo 3 months ago for what was supposed to be a 2-week visit. She had stayed, fascinated by her daughter's project and eager to make up for lost time. The relationship between mother and daughter remained complicated, layered with decades of misunderstanding, but they were learning to connect in new ways. "Ready?" Destiny asked, checking her watch. Keiko took one more look in the mirror. The woman who looked back at her was both familiar and new. Same carefully styled hair, same elegant clothes, same perfect posture. But her eyes were different now, more open, more present, less guarded. "Ready," she confirmed. They took the elevator down to the lobby, where the hotel staff stood lined up in their new uniforms. Not the stiff, formal attire typical of luxury hotels, but comfortable, well-designed clothes in muted colors. Like everything else in the renovated Westfield, the uniforms were both beautiful and functional, designed with sensory sensitivities in mind. Keiko walked slowly down the line, greeting each staff member by name. Many were familiar faces from the old Westfield, waiters, housekeepers, front desk clerks who had returned after the renovation. But there were new faces too, specifically hired for their understanding of diverse needs. At the end of the line stood Ray, the former restaurant manager who now served as operations director. "Everything is in place, Ms. Tanaka," he reported. "We're ready to open the doors." Keiko nodded. "Thank you, Ray, for everything." He smiled, a gesture that would have been unthinkable a year ago when he had viewed her as the difficult guest who never smiled. "It's been an education, ma'am, for all of us." The front doors of the hotel were still closed, a velvet rope and small podium set up for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Through the glass, Keiko could see journalists and photographers gathered on the sidewalk along with a small crowd of curious onlookers. Destiny touched her arm gently. "The speech we practiced. Remember to pause if it gets overwhelming. No one will mind." Keiko nodded, grateful for the reminder. Public speaking had never been her strength, and today's event would push her well beyond her comfort zone, but this was too important to delegate to a spokesperson. At exactly 10 a.m., the doors opened to admit the press. Cameras flashed as Keiko took her place behind the podium, Destiny standing supportively nearby. In the front row, Harumi Tanaka watched, her daughter with proud eyes, while Alex sat slightly apart, wearing noise-canceling headphones to manage the sensory input of the crowded space. "Good morning," Keiko began, her voice clear and steady despite her racing heart. "Thank you for joining us for the reopening of the Westfield Hotel. This project represents more than a renovation of a historic building. It represents a new vision for hospitality, one that recognizes and celebrates the diversity of human experience." As she spoke, explaining the unique features of the hotel, Keiko felt herself settling into the moment. This was her vision coming to life. This mattered in a way that quarterly earnings reports and stock prices never had. The Westfield is now the first hotel in the world specifically designed to accommodate neurodivergent guests without sacrificing luxury or comfort for anyone, she continued. Our lighting systems adjust to reduce sensory overload. Our soundproofing exceeds industry standards. Our restaurant offers options for those with sensory sensitivities. Our staff is trained to recognize and support diverse needs without drawing attention or creating discomfort. A reporter raised his hand. Ms. Tanaka, what inspired this unusual approach? Most luxury hotels focus on opulence, not accessibility. Keiko paused, looking briefly at Destiny, who gave her an encouraging nod. This was the moment they had discussed, whether Keiko would share her personal connection to the project. I am autistic, Keiko said simply. The words hung in the air for a moment before she continued. For most of my life, I hid this fact. I learned to pretend, to pass as neurotypical, to ignore my own needs in order to fit into a world that was not designed for minds like mine. The room had gone completely silent. Journalists frozen with pens over notebooks, photographers momentarily forgetting to click their shutters. I built a successful company by channeling my differences into work, Keiko continued, her voice growing, stronger. My pattern recognition, my attention to detail, my ability to focus intensely, these traits helped me create technology that has changed how people communicate. But success came at a personal cost. The constant effort to appear normal is exhausting. It leaves little energy for connection, for joy. In the front row, Harumi dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Beside her, Alex had removed one headphone to listen more closely, his expression intent. The Westfield represents a different approach. Instead of forcing diverse minds to adapt to uncomfortable environments, we have created a space that adapts to diverse needs. A place where being different is not a deficit to be overcome, but simply another way of experiencing the world. Keiko gestured to Destiny, inviting her to join her at the podium. None of this would have been possible without Destiny Williams, our Director of Guest Experience. It was Ms. Williams who first recognized what others had missed for decades, who saw beyond the mask I had perfected, who understood that differences need not be divisions. Destiny stepped forward, clearly surprised at being called up. As she took her place beside Keiko, cameras flashed again, capturing the striking image of the two women together, the reserved Japanese billionaire and the warm, expressive former waitress. Ms. Williams has led our staff training program, teaching our team to see guests as individuals with unique needs rather than as uniform customers, Keiko continued. Her insight and compassion have shaped every aspect of the new Westfield experience. Another reporter raised a hand. Ms. Tanaka, isn't this a risky business move? Designing a hotel for such a specific population limits your potential clientele, doesn't it? Before Keiko could answer, Destiny leaned toward the microphone. Actually, what benefits the neurodivergent community often benefits everyone. Who doesn't appreciate a quiet, well-designed space? Who doesn't want staff who pay attention to individual preferences? The features that make the Westfield comfortable for someone with sensory sensitivities make it more pleasant for all guests. Keiko nodded in agreement. This is not just about accommodation. It is about excellence, about creating an environment that brings out the best in everyone, guests and staff alike. After the formal presentation, the journalists were given tours of the hotel facilities. Keiko and Destiny moved through the crowd, answering questions, explaining features. The restaurant, with its adjustable lighting and sound-dampening design. The guest rooms, each configurable to different sensory preferences. The staff training center, where employees learn to recognize and support diverse needs. In a quiet moment between interviews, Destiny found Keiko standing alone by one of the new features, a small indoor garden with carefully selected plants chosen for their calming properties. You did it, Destiny said softly. Your vision, brought to life. Keiko turned, her usual composure softened by the emotions of the day. We did it. Together. How does it feel? To be so public about something you kept private for so long? Keiko, considered the question, taking her time as she always did when addressing matters of feeling rather than fact. Frightening, she said finally, but also freeing, like putting down a heavy weight I have carried since childhood. From across the lobby, they could see Harumi and Alex engaged in animated conversation despite their language barrier. Alex was showing Keiko's mother something on his tablet, his hands moving excitedly as he explained while Harumi nodded with genuine interest. "Look at them," Destiny said, smiling at the unlikely pair. "Who would have thought?" Indeed. Keiko watched her mother laugh at something Alex had said through his translation app. "She never understood me this way, but she is trying now. We both are." A hotel staff member approached, apologetically interrupting to inform them that more reporters had arrived and were asking for interviews. Keiko nodded, her business face briefly returning as she prepared to go back to the public role. But before turning away, she did something unexpected. She reached out and took Destiny's hand, squeezing it gently. "Thank you," she said simply, "for seeing me, for changing everything." Destiny squeezed back, remembering that night in the restaurant, when a breaking glass had broken through walls built over decades. "You did the hard part, you let yourself be seen." Together, they walked back into the crowd, the billionaire and the former waitress now partners in a vision larger than either had imagined alone. Around them, the Westfield hummed with new life, a space transformed not just by renovation but by understanding. A place where differences were not just accommodated but celebrated. As the day continued, journalists noted the unusual partnership between the two women, so different in background, culture, and temperament, yet clearly united in purpose. Many asked how they had connected, how the unlikely collaboration had begun. Keiko's answer remained the same each time, spoken with a clarity and openness that would have been impossible a year ago. "No one understood me, until Destiny said, the words I had waited a lifetime to hear. I see you." In the evening, after the press had gone and the hotel welcomed its first official guests, Keiko stood on the rooftop garden she had added during the renovation. The city lights spread out before her like stars fallen to earth, beautiful but no longer overwhelming thanks to the careful design of the space. Destiny joined her, carrying 2 cups of green tea. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city below. "What's next?" Destiny asked eventually. "After the Westfield is fully operational?" Keiko sipped her tea, her gaze still on the horizon. "I have been thinking about that. About what matters now." She turned to face Destiny. "I want to create more spaces like this. Not just hotels, workplaces, schools, public buildings, places where different minds can thrive without exhausting themselves trying to fit in. A whole network of neurodiversity-friendly spaces," Destiny said, catching the vision immediately. "That's ambitious." "Yes." Keiko's lips curved in a small smile. "But I have always been ambitious. The difference is that now my ambition has found a new purpose." She paused, then added, "And a new partner, I hope." Destiny looked surprised. "Me? I'm still finishing my degree. I don't know anything about real estate development or—" "You know about people," Keiko interrupted gently. "You see what others miss. You understand both worlds, the neurotypical and the neurodivergent, in a way few do. I can handle the business aspects, the technology, the systems, but the human element, that is where you shine." The proposal hung between them in the cool evening air, not just a job offer but an invitation to continue the journey they had begun together. To take the understanding they had found in one hotel and expand it outward, creating ripples of change in a world that too often demanded conformity. "Partners," Destiny said, testing the word. "I like the sound of that." Below them, the newly renovated Westfield welcomed guests who would never know the story behind its unique design, who would simply appreciate the calm atmosphere, the attentive but unobtrusive service, the sense of having found a place that somehow felt right in ways they might not be able to articulate. And in years to come, As more such spaces appeared, first in other cities then around the world, few would know that it had all begun with a broken glass, a moment of vulnerability, and a waitress who had looked at a solitary woman and truly seen her. But Keiko would know. And in the quiet moments between board meetings and design consultations, between public speeches and private struggles, she would remember the simple truth that had changed everything. Sometimes, being seen for who you truly are is the beginning of finally finding your place in the world.